Good morning, and welcome back to the Essay Desk. This is episode 26 of your daily writing masterclass, and I want to start today with a confession. Some of the best essay topics look like they are about the weather and are actually about the state. Today, we are picking up exactly such a topic, one that hides an entire governance argument inside a single image of heat. It reads like a line about the sun, but it is really a line about who the state protects and who it forgets. If you are preparing for the essay paper, this is exactly the kind of socio-economic aphorism you should expect to meet in the exam hall. So let us decode it together. Here is today's topic. The heat falls equally, the shade does not. It belongs to section B, so it wants structural analysis, real Indian examples, and a constitutional value. Dressed in the same short, aphoristic voice the examiner now prefers everywhere. This theme family, nature, ecology, civilization, and climate, has appeared in 2022 and 2024, and it is currently rated a rising and recurring heat for the coming exam. Climate is not going anywhere as a theme, so this is worth your full attention. Start every abstract or aphoristic topic the same way, by asking what is being compared. Here, the sun stands for a natural fact that falls on everyone without discrimination. Shade stands for everything that protects a person from that fact. A roof, a water point, a wage that allows rest, a government scheme that notices you exist. The topic's real tension is not between hot and cool. It is between a natural cause that is fair and a social consequence that is not. Once you see that, you know this essay is really about governance and inequality, wearing a weather costume. Once you have decoded the tension, compress it into one sentence. You will argue for a full 1200 words. A strong thesis here could be that climate change is often called the Great Leveler because the sun checks no bank balance. But the real cruelty is that resilience itself is rationed by wealth, and it is the Republic's task to close that gap in shade, not merely track the mercury on a thermometer. Notice, this thesis takes a position. It does not just describe a problem. And every paragraph you write after this must serve this one sentence. A one-dimensional answer is the single biggest reason a good essay scores an average mark. So build range deliberately. Start social, naming who actually bears this burden. Construction labor, street vendors, slum dwellers. Move to economic, the cruel trade-off, where stopping work to rest also means losing that day's meal. Then move to governance, where you argue that heat is still not officially notified as a disaster, so it gets no dedicated relief funding, unlike a flood or a cyclone. Close the body with the ecological and international frame, showing this is a rising global pattern and not a local complaint. Each dimension should answer a question the last one raised, so the essay reads as one argument, not a checklist. Anchors only work if you interpret them. Never just drop a fact and move on. Ahmedabad built India's first heat action plan in 2013, after a 2010 heat wave killed well over 1,000 residents. And that plan is now credited with saving lives every year through nothing more exotic than early warning and painted cool roofs. Use that example to argue that cheap governance interventions already exist. The missing ingredient is political will, not technology. A recent national environment assessment found extreme weather struck India on 331 of 334 days in 2025. Do not let that number simply sit there. Use it to show the reader that heat has stopped being an occasional emergency and has become the ordinary climate of Indian summers. Finally, anchor your ethical argument in Article 21, the right to life, which courts have read to include a livelihood earned in dignity. This is the single highest value move in your entire essay, so listen carefully. Never open a topic like this with a dictionary definition of climate change. Open instead on a scene: two people under the same sun, a laborer breaking concrete at noon, and an office worker complaining mildly about a warm parking lot. That contrast earns attention in 3 lines and quietly states your thesis before you have even announced it. Then, when you close, do not summarize what you already said. Circle back to that same scene and convert it into a forward-looking promise. Something like, a nation that finally gives its poorest citizen the same shade as its richest will have kept a constitutional promise, not merely managed a weather statistic. An opening scene and a closing promise, used together, are what lift an essay from competent into memorable. Here are 2 lines you could adapt in your own hand. Never copy them word for word. An opening line: the sun that morning discriminated against neither of them. What differed entirely was the shade each could afford. And a closing line: shade, unlike sunlight, is not a gift of nature. It is a choice of policy. Practice building your own version of both in your own voice before the exam. Let us recap before you go and write. Decode the topic to find what is truly being compared. Fix one thesis and defend it for 1,200 words. Build dimensions in an order that gives the essay momentum. Anchor every claim in a real, sourced fact, and then interpret it in your own words. And finally, open on a scene, close on a promise. Decode the topic, argue one thesis, build the dimensions, close with the vision. That is the whole craft in one line. That is today's masterclass. Go and write just the opening paragraph for this topic before you do anything else today. The discipline of finishing what you start is half of what this exam actually tests. To everyone grinding through another humid, difficult evening of preparation with no guarantee attached to any of it, your discipline today is not wasted. It is exactly what a fair examiner is trained to notice. If you would like the full written brief, 2 complete model essays with examiner's margin notes delivered 3 times a week, drop your email